Welcome to the Gospel Road, Colossians 3. If you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming. In these you too once walked when you were living in them. But now you must put them away: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have put off the old self with its practices, and have put on that new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its Creator. Here there is not Greek or Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave, free, but Christ is all and in all. Put on as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, and thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives, and do not be harsh with them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged. Bondservants, obey in everything those who are your earthly masters, not by way of eye service as people pleasers, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. For the wrongdoer will be paid back for the wrong he has done, and there is no partiality. Corinthians chapter 3. It's one of those chapters that I read and it really causes me to make a count, to prioritize. Where are my priorities? Where do I need to hold myself accountable? How am I acting? What am I doing? What am I saying? Am I forgiving others? Am I loving one another? Am I showing a compassionate heart? Am I being kind? Am I being humble? Am I being weak? Patience. It's also talking about the things that we should not be doing anymore, with sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness. And I know many of us struggle with a lot of those every day, and hopefully we're working on that, and you're trying to be better. But sometimes, why are you focusing always on that negative when you need to be focusing on the positive? Focusing on having that compassionate heart. Focusing on being kind and humble and meek and patient. Focusing on forgiving one another. Focusing on loving each other. A lot of times we get caught up in the don'ts. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't. We hear that time in and time out. But what about the do's? What do we do? Do this, do that, do. Sometimes I think it's the way that we need to change our thinking. We need to change the conversations that we're having with one another. And I know it's not always easy because we have been taught and raised this way. That's what we're used to. But there's such a better world out there to help build someone up so they're thinking positively, not always negative. And that is a fight that I have on a regular basis. And many that I talk to that I know that have on a regular basis. Because that's all you always hear, the don'ts. But what about the do's? See, if you're in a leadership position, and if you're taking a leadership class, you're hearing how your coworkers, your employees need to have 70% of praise. And of course, these numbers change depending on whose statistic you're looking at. But if they were getting more praise, more instruction, more leadership, then when you tell them about the don'ts, don't do this, don't do that, they're going to take that more as that constructive criticism and listen and go, oh, what am I doing wrong? How can I do this better? Not only does that work professionally, but it also works personally. Because we're trying to make people better. We're trying to give them a better life, professionally and personally. And we're trying to encourage them to be a better person. Not to be the person that they were, to grow, to learn, to understand. To work on their body, mind, and soul. It's all three pieces that need to be healthy for us to have healthy lives, to have healthy relationships. So what is it that you focus on? What is it that you are sharing with others? Are you constantly beating them down, always telling them what they are not supposed to do? Or are you saying, hey, you did this really well. Keep doing that. Here are other things to do, to really focus on. Because if you start thinking more on the positive and start filling your mind with those positive thoughts, the negative and the things that you're not supposed to do will eventually not be in the forefront of their mind. Not saying that any of us are going to be perfect and we're not going to mess up. But it'll happen less often. Colossians chapter 3, read that. What is it that it speaks to you? What is it that it says to you as you are moving forward and chatting with one another? Thank you for listening to the Gospel Road. Have a great day. God bless.